Hello and welcome to Power Skills with Janna. I'm Janna Jones, your leadership development specialist, coach, and mentor, here to guide you as you build the most powerful skills in your toolkit and to help you to grow as a leader in today's dynamic world. We are going to be diving into a fascinating and crucial topic of decision making. We all make decisions every single day, big and small, personal and professional, from the moment we decide to get out of bed, or even before, if you're still in bed checking your overnight emails. Not recommended, but I get it, big projects, timelines. I have been there too. But it's far less often that we actually take the time to consider how we think about and how we make those decisions. Today, we'll break it down into technical and adaptive decision making, explore some different thinking styles, and also share some tools that you can start utilizing right away. I like to think of decision making in terms of two types: technical or adaptive decisions. Technical decisions are about solving problems that have clear and often linear answers. You might think of those as the known knowns. For example, if your team needs to hit a project deadline, you can set milestones, you can assign tasks, and you can use proven systems and strategies to get there. The challenge is fairly straightforward, and the tools to solve it are usually really well defined within your organization, within your technical discipline, within your scope. Adaptive decisions, on the other hand, come into play when you're dealing with ambiguity. Problems where no clear solution exists. These are less technical and they often include the human factor. Think about situations like navigating cultural shifts in your organization or responding to disruptive innovation in your sector. Adaptive challenges require creativity, collaboration, and experimentation. The end result or destination is often not predetermined, and the work to get there is therefore nonlinear and cannot be prescribed. Adaptive because we will need to reflect, to review, and to reevaluate as we go in order to adapt the strategy, plan, and actions. Ronald Heifetz and Marty Linsky, both Harvard professors and leadership experts, pioneered the theory of adaptive leadership, which I would highly recommend if you'd like to take a deep dive. Fascinating book. It emphasizes the importance of adapting to change and making decisions in an evolving environment or a VUCA environment. It's a model that encourages experimentation and innovation over the status quo. It's designed to really help organizations to solve problems in a fast-paced world by enabling groups of people to find practical solutions together. Some of the skills of adaptive leaders include anticipating future challenges, sharing challenges with the team, developing collective solutions, and recognizing that solutions are often non-traditional and innovative. Remember the quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them," by Albert Einstein. It's important to start by identifying whether your decision requires a technical solution or an adaptive approach, or perhaps a mix of both. You might find that they are often both. When working with leaders in this distinction, we will unpack a few of the current challenges that require decision making. They start out thinking it's a technical problem, technical decisions for a technical solution, only to realize it's often both. Where there is a human element, change, adoption, or adaptation, it is likely to be both. So take a moment now, if you can, to reflect back on a recent challenge that you have faced or a decision that you have had to make. Was it purely technical, or were there some adaptive opportunities? Upon second look, could your efforts have been supported better by considering it both and rather than either or? This is always good food for thought and EQ building self-reflection as an opportunity as well. Now, let's consider some of the thinking styles for effective decision making, because how you think also shapes your decisions. The three core thinking styles most often referred to are analytical thinking. This is about breaking down problems into parts and evaluating each part logically. It's, of course, really essential for technical decisions, like choosing between vendors, setting a budget and targets. For analytical thinking, you may be able to use a tool such as a decision or risk matrix and weigh the options based on criteria like cost, quality, likelihood, urgency, etc. Creative thinking is quite different again, as creativity tends to shine in adaptive decision making. It's about challenging the status quo, generating new ideas, and connecting seemingly unrelated concepts for a bigger picture view and vantage point. To enhance creative thinking, especially valuable for those who are usually more linear thinkers, you may like to use a tool such as the Scamper technique, for which stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and rearrange. To think about a challenge in different and varying ways in order to uncover new and innovative solutions. You can think of different ways of viewing the problem against all of those different headings as an example. Collaborative thinking is also something that people talk about with more reference than actual understanding of what it takes, unfortunately. This involves gathering diverse perspectives to see the bigger picture and come together to solve a problem in a meaningful way together. Unfortunately, many leaders see this as simply bringing people together to share a somewhat predetermined solution. That is consultation, not collaboration. It is quite distinct from that, where the result is not predefined. It requires input from others and builds to support those who are brought together to work towards an optimal decision, solution, or outcome. It's particularly effective for complex or adaptive challenges or where tight time constraints are not an issue. Collaborative thinking can take additional time. So, for example, if you're in an emergency situation, collaborative thinking is not the way to go. But you might start with something like a structured brainstorming session, perhaps leveraging tools such as the 6 Thinking Hats method by Edward de Bono, which may allow you to explore multiple perspectives, logical, emotional, creative, and so on. I found this incredibly helpful as well for getting to know what sort of thinkers those around me are based on how often they metaphorically put on a certain color hat in their decision-making practice. There are also some incredibly valuable practical decision-making tools that you may wish to use. You know, I love a good practical tool, so you can pick up and use it right away. Let's consider a few tried and true tools to help you to improve your own decision-making processes. You may wish to consider what will work best for you, whether that's situationally or because it feels like a good fit for your personal style. The OODA Loop, or OODA, this one was originally developed by military strategist John Boyd. The OODA Loop helps leaders to navigate uncertainty. It stands for observe, to gather the information to start with, orient, analyze the situation and context, then decide, choosing a course of action, and act, implement the decision. The loop emphasizes strategic agility more than anything else. You revisit it continuously post-action. You then reobserve, or as new information arises, you might wish to reobserve again and start over. The ladder of inference is a tool developed by Chris Argyris. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that correctly. My apologies if I haven't. Specifically to help you challenge assumptions and avoid jumping to conclusions. You would start with observable data, then interpret that data based on context. I would also stress that data is not just found in the numbers, but also consider things like anecdotal evidence, feedback, behaviors, and felt experience, the being, not just the doing data. Then you draw your conclusions, almost like hypothesizing, and test them before taking action. The latter really encourages reflection, and if you're considering a wide range of data, it's particularly helpful when working with adaptive situations, especially where bias could cloud judgment. This one has been my own natural decision-making style for a number of years, fast and slow, and then I stumbled across a name for it. So again, remember what feels natural to you can be most helpful. There are, of course, other tools for specific purposes. For example, most people have heard of the Eisenhower Matrix for when you need to decide what to do, schedule, delegate, and drop from a never-ending task list. But there's one that I've found really significant for me in the last few years that has resonated most deeply with my clients, as well as individual leaders that I get to work with. I was working on hacking innovation and cultivating an improvement culture in organizations. And I had a really incredible opportunity to connect with some of the team at Microsoft and Amazon to pick their brain on ways of thinking, testing ideas, removing the fear of failure, while their use of anecdotal evidence and feedback and seeking to disprove an idea is incredibly fascinating. In digging in a little further, the Jeff Bezos one-way and two-way door mental model really stood out for me. And while you can find loads of resources across the web on this, I wanted to share it here just in case it's a new opportunity for you because I like to overlay it as a matrix style model. So when making decisions, we are often met with analysis paralysis, which this model actually reduces. So it also encourages experimentation, lowering the perceived cost of failure. So what is it? Well, a one-way door is a decision with significant and often irrevocable consequences. Once you go through that door, you can't really ever get back to the way it was. As such, these decisions require careful analysis and deliberation. A two-way door decision, on the other hand, is one with limited and reversible consequences. You can still backtrack if you need to, and as a result, these decisions can actually be made much more quickly because they're less impactful. So essentially, it's a consideration as to whether the decision is irreversible or reversible. Where this gets the most interesting and valuable for me is when placing it onto a 4-point grid, with irreversible and reversible at the north and south points of the axis, and consequential, inconsequential at the west and east points of the axis, respectively. Then we can really start to consider what we do with these decisions. So, for example, where a decision is reversible and inconsequential, quite simply, we should be able to decide on the spot based on our experience and perhaps set a reminder to check on the outcome so that we can change course if need be. When a decision for us is irreversible and also inconsequential, we should be in a position to review the data that should already be available to us and decide on the spot based on our own experience. If it's reversible but consequential, we should review the data that's available, understand the milestones, for example, when a decision can be reversed versus when it has the greatest impact, for example, the tipping point, and then decide rationally based on the data. Then perhaps set a review schedule based on those milestones. And finally, where a decision is irreversible and consequential, these are our big decisions where we need to do a lot of research, explore possible scenarios, evaluate and quantify risk, and decide rationally and carefully, ensuring that we understand the problem or challenge, not just the symptoms. Unfortunately, where people get most stuck and lose a lot of energy, effort, and time is in treating all decisions like they are irreversible and consequential. So I hope this can keep you from falling into that trap and open up some improvement and innovation in your leadership. Fail fast, learn from it, and move on. One final tip, if I may. Don't overlook the balance between logic and intuition. While technical decisions often rely on the data and the facts, adaptive decisions benefit from listening to your instincts, values, and felt experience. Perhaps try this exercise. When you're faced with a big decision, pause and ask yourself these two questions. What does the data say? And also, what feels right for the people and the purpose involved or the impact we're trying to create? Mastering decision making may start with understanding whether you're tackling technical or adaptive challenges, leveraging different thinking styles, some of which may actually be less comfortable for you at first, whether that's analytical, creative, or collaborative, whatever is most helpful as you find the right solutions. And don't forget to experiment and have some fun, testing out tools like the OODA Loop, ladder of inference, Eisenhower Matrix, and the one-way and two-way door, as you start to develop and refine your personal approach and preferences. Remember that great leaders aren't just great decision makers. Much more importantly, they are intentional about how they make those decisions. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to tune into this episode of Power Skills with Jana. If you found it helpful, please don't hesitate to share it with your network and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I would love to hear what you've found helpful or what you've tested out. You can reach out to me via Power Skills Development on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. If you'd like to work with me further, you can head to www.powerskillsdevelopment.com, where we have a few sneaky free resources available for you as well. Until next time, keep being uniquely and authentically you, and have a fabulous rest of your week.